I'm going to say all right, then we're going to start.
That works for me.
Come here! Let's go, give me a flipper!
Welcome to Amateur Hour, episode 90-ish. I'm here at Buffalo Wild Wings with replacement Troy, also known as Aaron Ward.
I'm grumpy about everything.
He's doing a good job being Troy. So we're going to talk about in our first segment the playoffs from the SETX FFL 7, which is the last season. It was, Aaron, I think that was probably the best playoffs we've had maybe ever.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think every game was pretty much down to the last minute, except for, of course, the championship game. And, of course, the scores, we're looking at 1 point in the very first game, 4 in the next, 4 in the next one after that, and then, 11. So yeah. I think the top 5, I think, were the best, most even that it's been in a while. Usually there's like Jack Boys that just towers over everybody.
Right. So I figure we'll go through each game. We'll both give our little side of it and talk about that. So the first game was Exclusive versus Hurricanes. Hurricanes won that by 1 point, 19-18. Aaron, what are your thoughts?
What I remember most about this game is it started out with Atterbury at quarterback for the Hurricanes. They didn't do too bad with them. They were moving the ball okay. But I feel like a guy like Atterbury, you definitely want him being able to be a receiver. And so having JC come in at the half, of course, besides being the leader, like it's just good to have your normal quarterback in.
Sure, and I think Atterbury is what a third string quarterback would be. You know, like somebody
He's
who
suitable.
Could win a game, but not your very favorite person to go and play on the team.
Yeah.
And once JC came in, they really turned it around. And man, there's some controversy at the end. There was a clear first down by the Hurricanes, which was called fourth down going the other way by the referee on that side of the field. And Exclusive had one more chance to go down and score, but they couldn't do it. Exclusive also got angry because said the Hurricanes scored on a snap that wasn't quite 5 yards. I don't know. I wasn't paying attention that close to that point. So
yeah, I can't remember exactly what their issue was. I just know at one point there was a bunch of yelling at Sean for some of those calls. But then, I think at the same time, kind of like what you're saying, Hurricanes kind of got the benefit, or actually they kind of switched to
there's always a blown call on both sides. I mean, it's never like one thing. It's a fast game. You're talking about two referees cover a 50-yard wide field.
Yeah.
It's a hard thing to do. But I think it was a fairly ref game, and I think it was a really great game. And my last thought on it is I think the Hurricanes overperformed this year by being the 4 seed and winning a playoff game because they didn't have their talent they usually have.
For sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, moving on to the second game of the day. The Hurricanes played Team FTF, which displays a honey bear on their logo with its middle finger raised.
Who could know what that means?
I have no idea.
FTF, what does that even mean?
F means flag. The last F means flag.
Oh.
And the middle T means they.
Oh,
The first F means what you think it does.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was fund them flags.
No.
Okay.
You were incorrect.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I'm going to try to not bleep anything in this episode, so it's F they flags.
Yes.
With a honey bear.
Duck, but with the F instead of the D.
Yes. Correct. Okay. So that game ended with Team FTF at 33 and Hurricanes at 29. And, man, Hurricanes had a chance at the end of that game to win because they were winning.
Yeah.
And then FTF scored and did the make it, take it, and they made it.
Ballsy.
Well, they had to do it. I don't think they had an option.
No.
But they made it. And, man, what What a great game. I think that was the idea of the make it take it rule, and they made it happen.
Yeah, just something to keep those last couple minutes fun, and then also gives a chance for the losing team to kind of make something happen. I mean, because otherwise, in the past, it was like you would just sit there for a minute and a half while
Just
the
run
other
out
team.
the clock,
Yeah, and so this gives more importance to the end of the game, and I think just makes it spicier.
Well, this was the best make it take it story so far. So the next game was Expendables versus Jack Boys. Probably one of the very, very best flag football games I've ever seen. Although earlier in the season, Expendables played Jack Boys, and Jack Boys won at the very last second of the game, I think 50-45.
Yeah.
And this game, though, Expendables win 38-34.
Yeah, and from what I remember, that game, within the last 2 minutes, there was probably about 3 or 4 different scores exchanged.
In the last minute and a half, there were 3 scores.
Yeah, and
2 by Expendables and 1 by Jack Boys.
Okay. Yeah, because we were sitting up in the booth, and I remember one of us saying, we saw the clock had like 8 seconds, and one of us was like, that's still enough time for them to win this game.
It was.
And we kept waiting for Expendables to kind of not choke, but just...
I was waiting for them to choke.
Okay. We were waiting for y'all to choke. We're sorry, guys. But their defense played so well in that game just to keep them in there,
They did, yeah. No, I thought that was just a great game between 2 extremely talented teams.
Yeah.
And if you played that game 10 times, I think it goes 5-5. I mean,
yeah,
they were very evenly matched. And I got to give it to the Jack Boys. They showed up. They played. They were real classy about it because that was an intense game.
Yeah.
And they were real classy about it when they left.
Yeah, they were
I
like...
think a lot of them stayed around to watch the championship.
Yeah, they stayed around, and then I saw them kind of congratulating the Expendables and all that, like just going individually.
Right. Well, I know it had to be disappointed for them because they've had so many undefeated seasons.
Yeah.
And they kind of wanted, I think they were kind of looking forward to just being the most dominant team ever, which I still think they are.
Yeah.
But, I think they wanted one more like undefeated season championship thing, and it just didn't work out this year. But But really, that was a great game. So then, championship, we move on to Expendables playing Team FTF. That one ended Expendables 18, FTF 7.
The biggest score difference in that in the whole tournament was that game. So
and it was close the whole time. Well, Expendables kind of got up 12-0, and it looked a little bit like it was going to be a blowout. But JR's team came back, had it pretty close for a while, and the Expendables scored one more time. That was kind of it.
yeah,
I thought the Expendables were spent for one. I thought they were tired.
yeah,
But then again, FTF was tired too. I think what that came down to was Expendables have a lot more cohesiveness
yes,
than
definitely.
FTF. They have a better quarterback, and they played together for much longer.
Yeah,
So I think that had a lot to do with it. And JR, though, I'll give it to him. I don't think JR is a quarterback. I think he's much better swing back out of the backfield than anything else.
For
But
sure.
man, he got his team to the championship playing quarterback whole year.
yeah, pretty impressive.
job.
Just tells you how good he is as an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I agree with about the Expendables. I mean, they've been together so long now. A bunch of them, that core group, like Hall, Rob, Trick or Trey.
Trick or Trey?
A bunch of those guys have been together for a while. So I mean, they've been able to build some of that cohesiveness, like you were saying. And too, I just I think it was last season, I think I was probably a little critical of maybe Trey or the Expendables because he didn't show up to that last one.
Right.
And I'll just say this, Expendables, Trey, if you're listening, this is what you can do if y'all put everything together. I mean, they have them for one postseason for the full thing, for the full tournament.
Right.
And look what happened,
Yeah, and this was the best talent pool we've had for playoffs probably ever.
Yeah.
So they did a good job, and even if Trey can't show up, if Andrew Allen shows up, they're still a competitive team.
Yeah.
But man, when their quarterbacks show up, though, they're very,
It's just
very
like
hard to beat. Even Josh Hall on that game was hurt and couldn't rush for most of it, so they had to put Mike in to rush.
I remember Rob being in there a bunch.
Rob Rutt. I mean, they had all hands on deck, and they put it out there and they did it. And I was so happy for Rob. I know that meant a lot to him.
Oh yeah.
Those guys were. I was very happy to see them finally win one.
Yeah.
Not that I'm not happy every effing time the Jack Boys win every effing year.
Yeah.
I love those guys like LeBrie and TT, but it's nice to see somebody get happy, for their first little win. It was pretty cool, so I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that first time you win something like that is something you'll remember, even if it is just an adult flag football league. I mean, it's not like we're playing backyard football.
No.
It's not like you're playing a
Look,
church league at Beaumont,
They're playing against college athletes, a lot of college athletes out there, We've had people that played and were playing in the NFL play in that league. So, no, Jack Boys have college-level talent everywhere.
Yes.
JC's teams always have a couple of guys who played or could play in college football. Exclusive. Every one of those teams has some college-level athletes. Expendables definitely do. So, no, there's nothing wrong with taking a bunch of pride and winning a championship out there. It's a hard thing to do, and I'm very happy for them.
Yeah. I think one team, too, now this is a little bit personal because I played with these guys, but Worthy Brothers, if you're listening to this, heck of a job getting on the Hurricanes and a heck of a job in some of those playoff games because, I mean, they made some catches. JC was hitting both of them pretty well. And, of course, those guys, you don't particularly know this, Cody, but a lot of times those guys are at Westbrook on the weekends playing pickup games.
Right.
And it's good to see them guys get some playoff experience because
they've played on crappy teams.
Yeah, between the Heat, XYZ team names.
Oh, one guy was wearing a Ballers shirt. That was before your time.
Yeah, I don't remember that
the
one.
Ballers were not good.
Oh, yeah. So basically the BMS Goats, they were on that version of the team forever. Yeah. And it's just good to see them guys win something or at least do decent,
Sure. Any closing thoughts about the last season?
I don't think anything really comes to mind. I just think this is the best, I think this is the most evenly distributed group of talent that we've had in a while. Yeah. Out of all the teams that made playoffs, I mean, they were meant to be there.
Sure, and if we take that one step further, the Herd this year and Shiesty season this year, in many, many other years would have been at least average teams.
Yeah, for sure.
And because those other 5 teams were so good, I mean, there's no way you're making the playoffs. But there's been years where the Herd and Shiesty season would have been playoff teams and maybe even won a game in the playoffs.
Yeah.
But those 5 teams have gotten so good. Fur has done such a great job with the exclusive. JC has always done a good job with any team he's run.
Yeah.
See who's 3. Expendables obviously did a good job. They won the championship. Jack Boys, goes without saying, best flag football team ever. And JR, I mean, to me, JR is kind of the team GM of the year.
Yeah, for sure.
Because he took this brand new team basically and went to the championship. So y'all did an excellent job.
Yeah, I agree. And a lot of these teams, the common thing without them or through them, maybe except Jack Boys because they've been together so long, is that all the people that were leading the teams have ability to put those kind of guys together.
Yeah.
And if you can talk to the right people, like I know JC, I guess I'm spilling the tea just a little bit on JC, but he's known to kind of talk to people throughout the season sometimes, and
JC's a recruiter, man.
He is. He's an expert level recruiter. There's been times we've put together, me and Blake would put together a team, and then all of a sudden, a week before, I'm gonna go play with JC,
See, that's why we make our team always crappy, so we don't have to bother with JC stealing our players.
No, yeah, there's no free agent picking from y'all.
No, he never steals any of our guys.
That's fun.
Well, Aaron, do you have anything else on this?
No, I'm ready for next season.
Okay, good. Me too. Well, before I end this segment, I'll let you guys know if you want to go out on December 10th. It's a Saturday. We're going to have the first responders tournament. So police, fire, EMS, if any of you guys know any policemen, firemen, or EMTs that want to play in that tournament, tell them to email us or send us a message on Facebook. All the money that we raise for that goes to scholarships to put people through the police, fire, or EMT academies, and it's always a very fun time to watch people who never play flag football come out and try it for a day. So we invite all of you to come out to that.
Yeah, I think it's cool too just to see all the guys, like, they kind of come together as a group and play these games and stuff. It just some of the camaraderie between everybody, because it's like they're all in fields that kind of serve other people, so it's kind of like, I don't know, like it's a good community thing.
Yeah, no, it's fun. I really, it's one
good
of my
spirits.
very favorite things of the year. But so we're gonna have another segment. Aaron and I are going to discuss our takes on the midterm elections, because we're both political
experts.
We'll go with experts.
We're not experts.
All right, well, stick around. We'll be right back.
Are we back?
Maybe. And we're back.
And we're back.
All right. So welcome to Aaron and Cody's Political Roundup.
It should be a barn murder, folks.
It's a terrible name for this, but all right. So Aaron and I both kind of like to watch videos about politics. I like to read books about it. I don't know if Aaron does or not, but I do. I'm very interested in it. Not for being on one side or the other, really. I'm just sort of interested in processes and administration, as Aaron knows.
Yes, calling back to earlier.
Aaron told me I have an interest in administration, and he is correct.
Yeah. No. I don't think I quite go to the same route that Cody does. Cody was talking about books and all that sort of stuff. For me, it's like mostly podcasts. Like podcasts. Videos and stuff, so I like to think I'm more, I don't know, I think I'm more open to other thoughts than I used to be. I used to be really right-wing, like leading.
Yeah.
I would say I'm probably a libertarian more than anything now, but, I'll listen to anybody, I just think, I think the best thing is like people just talking about politics, because for so long it's been frowned on in like workplaces and in public life, and I think the best thing for us to do is just talk about it. Like, that's how you get all the good ideas coming to the top, and then the bad ones kind of hopefully die out,
Well, and you said it right. I think talking about it is good. I think arguing about it is a little bit counterproductive, because you never win any of those arguments. I mean, if you go online and you look up the pros and cons of X issue, you'll find a bunch of arguments on each, and it's never ending. So to try to shape what you think on that, to me, isn't so good. But if you could just talk to somebody and find out something you didn't know, maybe you don't agree with it, but you're like, well, I didn't know that, it does expand your thinking a little bit, and it may moderate your position. It may make you think, well, I mean, I completely disagree, and what I already thought was right, which is okay. We can all disagree, and it'll be all right.
Yeah.
All right. Without further ado, Aaron, what was your take on the midterm elections?
So, of course, the right, they kind of saw all the stuff with President Biden. They saw a lot of stuff with kind of maybe the lack of movement from the Democrats, because they pretty much, I believe, held both parts of Congress.
They did.
And then, when you have all three of those, the trifecta, you should be able to get a lot of stuff done, but it felt like there wasn't a lot of stuff done. Now, who's to really blame for that? I think we're still kind of leaning over from COVID, but obviously a president can help tamper that or help make that worse, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of Republicans were saying, oh, the red wave's coming. Right. And I think more of it was just kind of like, we're kind of about the same place. I think the House was won by the Republicans, but not the Senate, which
Correct.
you would like both if you're Republicans.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Or the Democrats, you would still like both.
Huh?
I said, or the Democrats, you would still like both.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Well, so what do you think happened? Like, why do you think there was not the red wave?
I think part of it was some of the candidates, maybe.
On the Senate side?
Yeah, like.
I agree with that.
Huh?
I agree with that.
I just think some of the candidates that were being put up, like even though I think Fetterman won.
He did.
Even though he won, I mean, you could see if you even saw like a video clip of him, he's not a very inspiring person. Like you're not saying that's our brightest person that could be in that position.
Right. Now, if I could, I know a lot about David Fetterman.
Okay. Yeah, go for
I think
it.
his name's David. It's John. I don't know. Last name's Fetterman. See how much I know about him? It's David.
Okay.
So I know a little bit about him. And the way I would ask people to think about this, or at least you could think about it if you wanted to, is, okay, let's separate Republican and Democrat for a second and just say you have your hometown hero and someone who doesn't live in a place, especially if you're a rural place.
Yeah.
Well, Fetterman grew up in Pennsylvania, and he went to college. I think he ended up at Harvard at some point, but in the interim during all that, he was part of the Big Brothers and Sisters Club, and he got his first job teaching kids to get a GED.
Okay.
And then he
So
worked. Go ahead.
So he's actually an Ivy Leaguer?
Yes.
I did not know this.
Right. So
Okay.
but after he was out of college, he taught kids to get a GED, like
Okay.
troubled youth or whatever.
Yeah.
He's big in labor, unionization. Steel industry's huge in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
He's like a native son. He was a mayor of a Pennsylvania city, lieutenant governor. He's sort of their person. So think Greg Abbott for us.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like some Texan, George W. Bush for us.
Yeah.
He is a Pennsylvanian person.
Okay.
So he's got that going for him.
Yeah.
And before his stroke, he did speak very well.
Is that why
That is why he can't speak.
I feel so bad now.
No, you're good. He had a stroke earlier this year, and he was in the hospital for a very long time. People didn't know if he would ever be back at anything. So he is convalescing from a stroke currently.
That must explain then that.
Yeah, that's why he can't speak.
Okay, because if folks, if you get a chance, go on YouTube and just look up one of his speeches from the debates. I mean, he's
Right.
barely putting a sentence together. It's
Right.
bad.
And before the debates, there was talk that he wouldn't debate, and he wanted to debate because he wanted to say the things he wanted to say. But currently, in his recovery from the stroke, he cannot process auditory listening very well. But
Yeah.
he can read. So
Okay.
for the debate, they had a closed captioning for him, so he could read what was said, and he can process that, but he can't get the words out right. And look, I can get into a bunch of brain science and tell you how strokes work and tell you how Broca's area and Wernicke's area are affected, but it affects how you can spit words out.
Yeah. It's actually interesting that. Well, it's not interesting that he had a stroke. That's bad. But my grandma, she had a stroke. She had two of them.
Right.
Like when she was probably in her 50s or so, she had one, and she had to relearn how to speak. Like she actually had to go to a speech therapist,
Yeah.
and then she had to learn like basic motor functions like gripping stuff. Like she never walked the same again. So it's so crazy now that you say that he had a stroke. It's like, oh well, that makes so sense now, because if you look at him too, if you look at how he stands, he looks all rigid and kind of.
Yeah, herky-jerky.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
kind of. Yeah, and
He's
so
relearning how to do all these physical things.
that's so crazy.
Now,
That changes my
I
whole.
have to take a pause real quick. What's your name, Mel?
Olivia.
Okay, Olivia. What do you want to say to the people of the 14 people who listen to us?
What's up, guys? Make sure you stop by Buffalo Wild Wings in Beaumont and come and see me.
That was great.
Good
You did
job.
a good job. That was our waitress. I always like to have a waitress pop in.
Yeah,
But no, I mean, once you know these things, it's like, okay, now I kind of get it. Because before he had a stroke, he was, if you go look up speeches from him from like 2016, 2017, just any time before this year, the dude is a good speaker. And like when you can think about his politics, whatever, but he's a good speaker. Like people hate Obama, but you can't deny the man can speak.
One of the best speech people I've ever seen.
But Fetterman, before the stroke, was kind of Pennsylvania's native son.
Yeah.
Like when he was mayor of the city of Braddock, every time they had a bunch of murders, every time they would have a murder, he would have the murdered person's name tattooed on his arm as sort of this reminder. Now, maybe that's political theater, I don't know, but that's the sort of person you're dealing with, and he's going up against Oz, who is not really a Pennsylvanian person, and looks a little hoity-toity, and I think puts off a lot of poor people who are going to vote. Who would normally vote Republican, I think saw that as sort of a rich guy that's just here to get a Senate seat. So I think that's what happened in that race.
Okay. Well, that's brand new information. I didn't know that about Fetterman.
I'm here to bring brand new information.
That's awesome. Oh, I appreciate that.
I'm a very bored person.
Huh?
I'm a very bored person.
There you go. That's pretty crazy, but just like there was other things too, like, so I think one thing, maybe DeSantis proved that you don't have to have the Trump label to win.
Yes, he did.
Especially in this election, I think if any Republican like just came out with an okay platform and stuck to their platform, they probably would have been okay. Because
I totally agree.
Because like even Abbott, as much as a lot of people that are on the left don't like him, and even for me, who considers himself still right on the right side, I don't like him either. But I mean, the man just kind of stuck to whatever he was doing. He's like, okay, look, I'm gonna do something, quote unquote, about the immigration stuff,
or at least say he's going to do something, which I'm not saying that in a cynical way. I mean, at least you're talking about it.
Yeah.
Thing that people are thinking about.
And then, like if you look at his Facebook page, he's always posting like about a new company coming in. He was meeting with Elon for the Tesla stuff.
Right.
Like, he can point to a couple things and be like, well, look, this is what I'm already doing. And like him and DeSantis, I think, proved that you don't necessarily have to have the Trump label to win, and especially now, it seems like things have switched to where even like people that voted for Trump last time or used to be big Trump supporters are kind of like, we really don't need this guy anymore.
Yeah, well,
I think it's shifting that way.
I think so. Now, my own thought about Trump is that he's at some level, maybe not a giant level, but at some level a cult leader, and there are certain people who their identity is tied to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Just to the person, not to his ideology, because in my opinion, he doesn't have one. But they're tied to this one person, and you're going to get 25 million people to vote this way no matter what you do.
Yeah.
But when it comes to state elections and stuff, if you are a Trump guy and your choice is Beto or Abbott, well, obviously you're going to vote for Abbott. I mean, even if Abbott doesn't say he loves Trump, I mean, who else are you going to vote for? So those people are built into Abbott. So he doesn't have to
yeah, he kind of can run as his own man.
Yeah, because all he has to do is give a little bit of lip service, and you got those people. It's not like they're going to go vote for Beto. I mean, they'll just stay at home.
Yeah, for sure.
And I even think if they stayed at home, Abbott would still win because Texas likes having no income tax. Texas likes, well, not Texas. I shouldn't say that. Most voters in Texas like having no income tax.
Yeah.
And they like the way things are.
Yeah. Basically, as long as nothing crazy is going on, then just.
Now, if I could say my problem with Abbott, I'll
Oh yeah. What's your thing on Abbott?
My problem. Well, I have a few, but I'll stick to one that sticks out right now. So when something like Uvalde happens, Abbott and the Republicans, but I'm specifically going Abbott here. Abbott will come out and very intentionally deflect any blame of gun restrictions or gun control or whatever, which, okay, cool. If that's your perspective, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then we'll say, what we need is mental health care and more mental health hospitals.
Uh-huh.
Well, Aaron, do you know where we rank in the United States in mental health spending?
Probably where we are with education.
48.
Pretty close.
Well, I haven't looked at the ones from last year, but we were below Puerto Rico.
Wow.
So we don't spend anything on it, and no one ever runs on, we want to build more mental health hospitals, or we want to build more clinics where people can go get antidepressants or counseling or whatever. We don't do any of that because that's not a sexy thing to run. People don't want to raise their taxes to go counsel little Jimmy so he doesn't shoot up the high school.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a little disingenuous to get on there and go, well, guns aren't the problem. The problem is mental health care. And then you do nothing. Well, okay, thanks. I mean, thanks for pointing out the problem. What are you going to do to fix it? They don't want to, that's money. Nobody wants to spend money on that.
Yeah.
So that's my issue with that side of the aisle. It's like you find a problem, cool. You find a solution even that I don't know that I agree with, but maybe a solution. But then you don't even do the solution.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's almost kind of like maybe if you weren't going to vote for Abbott, you could probably even point to the power grid stuff as another example where he said, okay, this is a problem, we're going to fix it. Nothing ever happened as far as we know. I think there was some stuff in the House and the Senate, the Texas House and Senate, but I don't think anything's really changed.
Not really.
Which, so, I think one of my problems with how he handled the Uvalde stuff is part of that. I think at one point he said, well, it could have been worse. And I'm like, dude, that is not what you want to tell a city that is reeling from something like this. Like, their kids just died. That is the last thing that you need to be saying. You need to figure out, first of all, this is what pisses me off. Why in the hell could they not figure out what to do to get down that hall in time? Because, I mean, I know that he'd already started shooting by the time they got there. But it's just, you see that video of where they're sitting in the hall, and it's like, go, just go, And I don't know, for something like this, you can't really separate the emotional. So I don't know if, as a police officer, the tactical side, maybe there's something I don't understand on that end, but for just a normal, citizen, I see that video and I'm pissed off because that dude's down the hall shooting up the classrooms, and they're, moving back and forth with shields and body armor. I'm like, dude, you have the same weapons and you have body armor.
Right.
Just go.
Well, I don't like to talk about law enforcement stuff online.
So I will answer that question to you off air.
Okay, I can understand that. I'm sorry.
I do have an answer, and it will be disappointing and boring. But no, I don't like to talk about that stuff on the things because
I will say this though too.
My professional life from this.
Yeah, I will say this though too. Look, I know there's a ton of guys that play in the league. I know people that are personally law enforcement officers. Look, I know y'all are trying to do the best job y'all do every day, so I'm not trying to paint with a wide brush. I'm just saying, for this instance, for some reason, something appeared not to happen as quickly as it could have.
When someone does something wrong in a job, I mean, it kind of puts a mark on the whole thing. I totally get it.
Yeah. So I think just those couple little things, and then I didn't like some of the stuff that he tried to do. It was because of the CRT, the critical race theory stuff.
Yeah, that one.
He tried to do kind of like a paintbrush of this is what you won't teach in class. And I just think first off, I think things should be done through your legislators. If you're going to do anything, it should go through the process, not just some executive order for something like that, especially. But I just think he painted with too wide of a brush, and when you do that, that's when the other side can point and be like, well, he's saying you can't even teach about slavery or racism in the 60s. And so it's it just feeds more into the thought that, well, Republicans are just racist,
Yeah, well, and Texas Education Board has been historically a little bit weird. You would think you would get, or at least I would, you would get education, pedagogy experts to go in and say, this is what we should teach our children. This is good for STEM. This is good, accurate history now,
Yeah.
This is stuff that can prepare them for their lives. To me, civics would be great to teach in school. But if you ever go when you get bored, look up who's on the Texas Education Board and who's choosing your school books. And it's creationist Christians and people that are it's a very religious ideology.
Okay,
that's
yeah.
choosing what children learn sometimes.
Yeah.
So you're having these kids grow up and not understanding biology
Okay.
because they can't be taught how things actually occur through science, and it's a very odd thing.
Yeah.
So it's it's hard. I mean, I get it, but you have a lot of laymen, to me, doing a job that an expert should do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like experts. I'm an administrator.
Yeah, I just that last thing is just, I think, one of the sticking points that aggravated me with Abbott, because it's just like you're just painting too wide of a brush, and for someone that's super conservative, maybe that's teaching, maybe that's when they could stray away from even teaching certain things, or
Yeah.
besides the whole notion of maybe, hey, there's racism with this
Right.
with this thing. I just think, you should just, history is what history is, and you got to teach it. We know for a fact that slavery existed for a long time here.
Yeah.
We know that civil rights issues have been even an issue up until, I mean, you could argue till now to some degree.
Well, and I mean, if you just go pre-1965,
Yeah.
like, come on, like it was a big deal for a good part of the population.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just not the rosy picture that I wish it would be. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't go read stuff from the 40s and 50s and watch freaking videos from it and go, yeah, that was right. That was the proper thing to do in that circumstance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's how we should treat people. It wasn't right.
Yeah.
You grow up. I mean, people get better.
Yeah. Yeah, I get the, you like the 1619 project stuff. I can see why people would want to push back against some of that, because
there's a lot of inaccuracy in that.
Yeah, and I think it's, if you're going to bring some of those really big claims to light, you better have like really good proof, and not just some sort of, somebody put in this journal here, blah blah blah, or even like the people that were putting together were like kind of questionable. So it's just, I think history should be what it is, and if
Right.
you should just be able to. I mean, it's hard to just look at it in the face,
Sure.
but with history, you should always try to do that. Like, it is what it is, and it happened.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle on that. Like,
History for school children is hard because
yeah,
you want to include everything that's important. It's a very general thing.
Yeah.
But to me, you can't really talk about Andrew Jackson without talking about the Trail of Tears.
yeah, oh
So,
yeah,
like, you can't talk about, 1930s and 40s America without talking about separate water fountains and other
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like, I just think that's a very important thing to talk about when you talk about these eras. Because when I was a kid and we went through school, we talked about the 50s as that was a freaking boom time, man. Like,
Oh, wow.
America was kicking, everything was cool. It's like, yeah, for a lot of us.
yeah.
But if you were the wrong persuasion,
It
it
bad.
wasn't great for you still.
No.
So I think that's an important thing to include in history class.
Yeah,
But that's just me. I'm no expert, and I'm not going to make that decision.
you're not an expert.
Not on that, no.
Okay.
I'm an expert on this particular podcast. Okay. That's it.
Yeah, just remembering from what we were doing in school. I mean, too, they do teach a lot of history. Like, they try to take a long spans of history, especially in high school, and try to condense it. I remember one semester we did like pre-1960s, or I mean 1860s, like all the way up to the Civil War, and then after that we went straight into Reconstruction all the way to the end. So it's like nearly 300 years of history. That's a lot of history,
Right.
But I think Silsby has a lot of faults, but I feel like I at least learned the main bullet points. There was an okay picture considering. But yeah, I just with the history stuff, man, I think Abbott was probably too far, and I think the 1916 stuff is too it's too fringy at the moment. You would have to approve a lot of stuff.
Oh, hey, real quick, late breaking news.
Uh-oh.
It is John Fetterman and not David Fetterman.
Dang. Well, if you're listening, we apologize, Mr. Fetterman.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, but I hope he forgives me.
All right, Aaron, anything else about the midterm elections?
I thought it was kind of interesting, some of the other individual races, like in Oregon, there was a push for the eastern part of Oregon at one point. Like, they're starting to talk about trying to become part of Idaho.
Right.
Because it's more conservative.
Yeah.
They were really pissed off about all the COVID restrictions, which, if you live in like a more rural place, some of those restrictions would sound pretty crazy because, everything's so spread out, you hardly see anybody anyway.
Right.
But I was looking this up because it was a tight race, which is not normally tight race for Oregon's governorship, but it was 47, I believe, to 43%. That was the final numbers. The Republican came within a couple percent of winning. And if you look back to 2018, that number was like 10% less. It was like 60% to 33%. So it's kind of interesting seeing the Republicans come up in a couple states where normally they don't.
Right.
I think part of that's just people were really pissed off about how the COVID stuff went down. Like maybe
probably so. I think, especially for those big open spaces, I think that played a big role for them.
For sure. And then like Kerry Lake over in Arizona, like I don't, I'm not maybe as read up on this as you are, but I just thought it was kind of weird, like how long it took for them to count everything. And
don't worry, that's what I'm going to talk about.
Okay. And then like, I haven't heard everything from Kerry Lake, but some of the stuff she was saying, like just the way she carried herself, I was like, okay, this is kind of impressive. Like, and then I saw the results. I'm like, that's kind of crazy because you thought that she was going to win that one.
Right.
So, it's mostly just kind of the same, other than Republicans just got a little bit of an edge with getting the House. You're going to see McCarthy get the House speaker position, and like Nancy Pelosi stepping down, which long overdue, by the way.
All right, so hang on, I've put you on the Pelosi spotlight. I have terrible names for these things.
Yeah, you're not good at titles.
What do you not like about Nancy Pelosi?
Well, we'll start out at the bare fact that she's been in politics forever. I don't think I'm for term limits. So I think about 3 or 4 terms for like a senator or House position. Like if that's fine if you get 3 or 4 terms. But I'm opposed to, like, for instance, like Biden has spent most of his working career in politics.
Right.
And other people, like even Bernie Sanders, have done the same. And it's just like, I think it's better. I think it helps with like corruption things. If you have new faces coming in. And I think, too, even if I don't agree with somebody, like, say, for instance, AOC, when she first came in, I'll just say this, if you haven't already guessed, I don't agree with AOC on hardly anything. She does agree with term limits for some reason. I think that's kind of cool. But, like, even if I don't like her ideologies and stuff, I can at least appreciate the fact that it's probably coming from a real place. And I think over time what you see is you see a really well-meaning person come in, and by the time they've been through the system, they're just they just incorporate themselves in the system to stay in longer.
Right. So your first thing about Nancy Pelosi is, to me, I could be wrong, but it doesn't seem like it's a problem with her, it's a problem with the system itself that allows her to be there for as long as she wants.
Maybe so. But she also chose to stay in. She obviously thinks that.
Okay, so you don't like her choice to stay in
to make it a career.
To make it a career. Okay.
Yeah.
What else?
I would say I don't feel like she made anything better during like the Trump era of like the presidency. Like I feel like she was kind of leading the charge on some of the, like. I just felt like some of the.
She was divisive.
Yeah, I just felt like she played into that more. And I just felt that during the whole Trump era, if either one of those sides would have just been an ounce normal, like they could have, that side could have came out on the other side way better than they are now. Like, for instance, if Trump just was normal, at least moderately normal, and did a couple of things that showed some unity, then maybe he'd be president again. But otherwise, you had one of the worst, I would say probably one of the worst Democratic candidates in a while, come through, and he won. He won by 7 million votes. So it's just like, I felt like she fed into all the divisiveness, and I don't think she's in it for the right reasons. Like, she trades on the stock market. Like,
well, so does Dan Crenshaw. He was the he was the second person on that list.
Huh?
On the list of who made the most money on the stock market,
Really?
was Congressman Dan Crenshaw was number 2.
He's number 2? Wow. Yeah, and that brings up another thing, which I guess I need to credit that to him too. I don't want them trading on the stock markets.
I agree with you.
Anything to keep them from doing the best job they can, which I think is interests of the people and not the corporations. I think once you get corporate donors and stuff like that, you're just muddying the waters.
Yeah.
And that's how big corporations end up on the winning side. And I think the little man comes out a little bit short.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I totally agree.
Like, I think it's way harder to be a small businessman than to just, like the big companies have so many breaks and stuff. Like, they'll get tax breaks for even choosing to come into an area. Like, you see that here. Yeah. But a small businessman can't get that. He doesn't get any breaks when he opens up his own shop.
Okay.
Oh, but yeah, so, I think she's divisive. She stayed in too long. Obviously, I probably disagree with her on a ton of politic levels. Like, I'm just, in general, I'm not very much for many of the things the Democrats want. The universal health care, all that sort of stuff. I do believe in safety nets, but I don't think it should be expanded for everybody.
Okay, I guess the reason I asked you to tell me what you didn't like about her was I've asked a lot of people that, and they say a lot of things, but it comes down to basically I just don't like her.
Yeah.
Which, okay.
That's part of the equation.
If that's your reason, that's fine. But I try, when I watch someone on television that I don't know, never encountered, I haven't read anything about, I try to have as little opinion as possible because I don't know the person. I don't know what they stand for. I don't know Nancy Pelosi's politics, really.
Yeah.
I know she is a representative from San Francisco, and obviously her party favors her enough to elect her time again as Speaker of the House. She is the least popular politician in the country, according to polls.
Wow. Even more than Brandon, huh?
Even more than Joe Biden. But she's routinely reelected as Speaker of the House.
She knows how to rally the troops, apparently.
So these Democrats know that she's unpopular, but continually put her back in the seat of power. So I don't know enough about it to say why or what's going on or anything else.
Yeah.
And I think that as far as being divisive, I haven't listened to a lot of her speeches, but I've listened to a lot of Joe Biden speeches, and I've read them. I think reading these things is better than listening to them because then you actually kind of get to know what they say. They're not like his speeches are never divisive. They're always, I want Republicans and Democrats to come together. Go read Obama's speeches. They're always about people coming together. They don't chastise anybody. Every now and then Biden will say, what I'm talking about now is MAGA people. But they're not, to me, at the level of what Trump does. Like, to me, that is like comparing a wave to a tsunami. Like, it's just different. It is,
okay,
to me, in a different category. Now, I'm sure people will listen to this and think I'm full of shit, but just go read transcripts. Don't listen.
Yeah.
But read the words that the people say. For one thing, they're not all that different, but the generalizations of one person and the lack of generalizations of another are striking.
Okay.
Because Biden is very specific, Trump ain't.
Yeah, that might be a help of Biden listening to his subordinates on messaging and points, because
Yeah.
I don't think Trump ever really did.
No, and that was part of my problem with him is I think he kind of just did what he wanted. I think any decision he makes is to benefit himself. So if it happens to coincide with what's going to be better for you, then you do benefit.
Yeah.
And it's, I like George H.W. Bush because he raised taxes when it wasn't popular and he knew he was going to lose the election because of that thing. But he was like, it's the right thing to do right now because we don't have enough money.
Yeah.
So like that to me shows a lot of integrity.
Okay.
And I don't think that Trump could do that. So.
Yeah. There's definitely, out of any president we've had, he probably has the least case for integrity out of anyone in recent memory, at least.
In recent memory, correct, but don't get me down the 1800s rabbit trail.
Okay, yeah, that could be a really big rabbit trail. Yeah.
Well, anything else about the midterms here?
Nothing too crazy that I've really noticed. I mean, of course, Texas. I didn't expect Abbott to come out a 10-point favorite on that.
Oh, I did. I thought that.
I thought it was going to be like a 3, maybe 2.
I thought people were happy with the way things were. And,
yeah, maybe so. And part of it is I spend a lot of time on Twitter for the Astros stuff. And, of course, there's a ton of Houston people. I'll say this. Inside of Harris County, Dallas County, Tarrant, and Behar, Abbott is not a liked man at all.
No, but, man, you get to the folk with some money that vote every single time.
Yeah.
And the border people, I think a lot of them are like, yeah, I don't want Beto, because I think they had some good messaging, Abbott's people, about Beto and the border.
Oh,
And
I noticed, too, on HBO Max, they ran this commercial a ton with Abbott. They actually pulled somebody that had a son that died in Houston, and he died because someone got out of jail because they've been turning people out or whatever, letting people out. Just like consistent messaging like that. He, as annoying as the commercials were this round, because I saw them for Beto too, I felt like Abbott at least he had some bullet points like, okay, crime, border, economy.
Right.
He just kind of stuck it there. Well,
look, we need to do more of these little podcasts because, man, I have some thoughts on stuff, but I want to take 3 hours to do this.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I'm not as sharp as I used to be. I got really into politics before the 2016 election.
Yeah.
I think everybody kind of did to a degree. Since then, I've kind of tried to chill out a little bit because I love politics, but at the same time, it makes me kind of crazy because I start getting in the rabbit holes. I'm like, oh, well, they're doing this, and then this guy's doing this. And so I try not to do as much anymore. I guess kind of like with sports, it's kind of like keep everything kind of balanced.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And you're probably in better shape in the end. So.
Well, let me give you my little take. I'm going to make this fairly quick.
Okay, fun. Yeah, because I've been talking this the whole time.
I like it. You did a great job. Okay. So, to me, try to be concise here. I think the midterm elections, as far as the Senate, came down to election denial and on a smaller little part, abortion.
Okay.
But I think election denial was the main thing.
Yeah.
I think that scares people. I think it makes them think that their systems are failing because every little Trump-backed candidate that said that the election was false, I think everyone lost. But then when you get down to your representatives, like the House members, those were a mixed bag because those are more local and those aren't about issues that are election denial. Those are about, I want to bring more money for your highways and Precinct 8 of freaking wherever.
Yeah.
So I think that was really the biggest thing in the election. Hang on, I got to flag this lady down. God damn it. She's talking to another table.
You've been waiting for a beer.
Yeah. and I need to order wings for somebody. This is very stressful. Take two.
Take two, and we're back.
So anyway, no, but I really think that scared people a lot. And I think they didn't see inflation as big a deal as the pollsters all thought they did.
Okay.
And I actually have some figures here
Oh, boy.
to give you about how votes are counted and everything, because if anybody's listening to this and think that Arizona is some corrupt place that where they're
It's usually flip-flops, though, right?
say what?
Arizona usually flip-flops, though, right?
It's a purple state.
Yeah.
You know, but so I did some research today and looked up how votes are counted in Arizona. And one of the things I saw was they take early ballots up to 27 days before the election.
Okay.
So in the last 10 years or several elections, usually, go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, I was just thinking about something maybe the audience would want to know. It's up to the states how the elections go about.
Correct.
There is no uniform way of electing your governor or et cetera.
It's all about the states.
Other than electoral college, I mean, it's pretty much up to the states how they want to divvy everything up and how they want to count everything. So
that's right.
Something worth knowing.
So in Arizona, they take early ballots up to 27 days before the election.
Yeah.
Well, over the last many elections up until 2020, they would have a lot of early ballot elections.
Okay.
And they would count those as they came in, so it wasn't such a stress on election day. That's how they did it. And the way people would do it is they would either mail them in or drop them in a drop box, and they would count them. This is going back to 1991.
Yeah.
So it's not like a new thing. And they would, that's how they would tabulate them. So then on election day, the ballots in Arizona are tabulated from the people who voted on election day at a poll site or who dropped off their little mail-in ballot on election day at a poll site.
Okay.
So the problem they have is in 2016, Arizona had 180,000 people come and drop off their ballot at the collections at the poll site on election day.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You know that you have to have enough workers to process 180,000 votes on election day to drop those off, because those are different than the ones that get slid through the machine.
Yeah.
You have to cut open an envelope, do signature verification and all this other stuff because you didn't check the person's ID when they were there.
Okay.
So those dropped off ballots are, take longer to verify than if you show up with your ID. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they had in this election cycle 290,000. So 110 more thousand show up to the polls votes
Okay.
than they ever did.
Yeah.
Which makes it slower because these are votes that you have to get the envelope, cut the envelope open, do signature verification from the voter's card to the voter registration, and figure out who they voted for. Go ahead.
I think I might be jumping the gun. Keep going.
So then, after Arizona does all this stuff, when they do all the signature verification stuff, they have to go input those things into the system to put them on a computer somewhere.
Yeah.
And make it so that you can tabulate these votes.
Yeah.
And this entire procedure is overseen by people from both political parties and live feeds on the internet where you can sit there and watch them count votes the entire time.
Okay.
So it's their process is just kind of shitty.
Yeah. And are they in one of those states where they don't count those votes until like late at night? Is that?
No, that's Pennsylvania.
Okay. Because I remember there was one, maybe it was you that was speaking about this, was like, for instance, in the 2020 election, the reason Pennsylvania flipped all of a sudden was they came through and finally added all the mail-in votes, and then the mail-in votes flipped it.
Right, because Pennsylvania legislature, which is a Republican legislature, made the law that we will count the election day ballots first and then the mail-in ballots. It's not what Arizona does. Arizona does it in a
different
they
way.
count them as they go in, but before that worked out great. But now, because people don't trust to mail in the ballots, they bring them to the poll location and just hand them to somebody. Some physical person has to open each one, compare signatures with two other people behind them. So that takes manpower. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Just for one little vote, And it just takes a lot of time to do it that way, and that's just their way of doing it. Like in Texas, if you go to the polling location, early voting, a lot of Texans early vote in person.
Yeah.
That's how we do it. We don't do it by mail as much as they do. But for 30 years, Arizona's been doing it by mail. It's just what they're used to doing.
Yeah.
But we go to the site, so that makes it easier because that person there at the polling location can verify your ID and go, okay, here's your ballot. You do it, hand it to the guy who scans it through. Well, a lot of these western states do a bunch of mail-in ballots, or mail it in, they mail you the ballot, and on election day you bring it to the ballot location in a sealed envelope with this evidence tape on it.
Yeah.
It just is a longer process.
Okay.
It's not a giant conspiracy.
Yeah.
It's just a longer process.
Yeah, and I guess the reason the mail-in is so popular there, too, not only just because it's been there for so long, is if you think about Arizona, there's only like 2 centers of like really significant populations. Like you got like Flagstaff, Tucson, Phoenix, and then outside of that, a lot of it, half of it, the northern half is like Indian reservation,
Right.
where it's very spaced out, and which that reminded me of a whole nother thing. There was a documentary called Res Ball. It was like these American Indian tribal basketball teams, whole different thing. But anywho, like much of Arizona, like you're saying, like western states, they're so spaced out, then that makes sense why there'd be so many mail-in ballots.
Well, right. Oregon does the same thing. Like
Okay.
a lot of these big states, you're not near a polling location, so you want to mail in your ballot.
Yeah.
Also, these are some of the last of the 48 continental states to become states.
Yeah.
So when they're making their first election laws, it's not like New York or New Hampshire, these newer states
Yeah.
where everybody's kind of clumped together. They're
Yeah.
making their election laws 100 years or more later, and they're like, well, yeah, we can use the mail-in ballots because we want to get all this stuff in.
Yeah.
The other thing is, to me, about the election denial stuff, Arizona's state senate, state house, and their government and their governor are all Republican,
Oh, wow.
except
Okay.
now. It's
Huh?
Carrie Lake lost.
Yeah.
But you have at least 2 branches of your thing. You have your Senate and your House that are Republican.
Yeah.
Well, fix it then. Like if you're saying it's false, fix it. And the third thing, the last thing I'll say about that part is, to me, it's just a shitty strategy. Like, to me, Trump's strategy on saying the election's rigged is so stupid. Because if you really think it's rigged, why are you going to go vote?
Yeah, that's true.
What's
Yeah.
the point?
Counterproductive.
So, I just, why get off the couch, go vote, go start the revolution?
Yeah. Yeah. And who knows what he was really thinking.
Get off your dumb ass and go get your stupid gun and I guess shoot in the air. I don't know what you do to start a revolution, but like, if you really think,
Got to fire a cannon first.
yeah, but if you really think that your vote doesn't count, why are you voting? And
Yeah.
why are you campaigning? And why are you saying anything on TV if you really don't think it counts?
Yeah.
If you really don't think it counts, then you go underground and start your guerrilla warfare or something.
Yeah.
But no, I think Carrie Lake is just a pretty person with a good TV personality,
Okay.
who is like John Fetterman, a native's daughter
Yeah.
of Arizona, who everybody saw on TV. So like, oh, well, Carrie Lake's never lied to me before.
Yeah.
It would be like one of our local news people telling us stuff. We're like, well, I've always listened to them.
Yeah.
And they're saying stuff I kind of think I like, and it's pretty to say.
Okay.
So I tend to trust in institutions, and then I go look into them and look at these websites and watch the videos. But I still talk to people who are like, yeah, but, man, but where's your evidence? Like, where's your, you're making an extraordinary claim, and to me, extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence.
Yeah.
So where's that?
Yeah.
And my last thing I'll say about the midterm, because we're on to like almost 49 minutes now.
It's getting lengthy.
Is I think people thought inflation would be much more of a big deal than it was.
Yeah.
And what I think happened was with that is that voters kind of saw inflation as one of those things that no one could do much about. It was like running in Southeast Texas going, For the last 4 years, it's been humid and hot as balls in the summer in southeast Texas. If you elect me, it ain't going to be humid and hot as balls in southeast Texas anymore.
Yeah.
But I think people saw the inflation thing a bit as, yeah, it sucks, but we're in with the world. Because, like, if you look at where we are in the G20 in inflation, we're sort of in the middle.
Okay.
Like, so Turkey's inflation right now rose last year from 19% to this year 83%.
Yeah.
UK's rose from 8.1 to 13.7%. Ours rose from 5.3 to 8.2%. Germany's rose from 3.9 to 10%. Like, as compared with our other countries, we're doing about the same or better than most of them.
Yeah.
And it's a worldwide thing. Like, you just got a bunch of stuff. You have opening up COVID, you have Ukraine, Russia stuff, and all these other things. And so then I looked at what the numbers were like in 2019.
Okay.
So I was like, well, I don't want to be unfair. I'll look at things before COVID. Maybe that would be different. Well, even in 2019, if you look at, well, there we go. If you look at our rates, we were, hang on, about in the same part with those countries like Germany, Mexico, and the United Kingdom as we are now. Like in 2019, you had the United States was at 1.8% inflation, and Australia was at 1.6%.
I think the normal rate's like 1.2, right? Like a good year's 1.2.
I mean, it all depends on the country and a bunch of other stuff with it.
Yeah.
But if you go look at, like, see, I looked at it earlier. The UK, they were very similar to us in 2019 as they are now. Like, they were a little bit higher.
Yeah.
Germany was a little bit higher. So those things haven't changed. So it's worldwide almost literally the same as it was in 2019. And Aaron, I want to leave you with this. And maybe one day you and I can talk about immigration, poverty, and stuff. But I don't
fun things.
I don't want to get onto that today. But I'll leave you with this. In 2019, the highest inflation rate, or second highest inflation rate in the world, was Zimbabwe at 175% inflation.
Okay.
Venezuela was the highest. Can you
about to
guess
say.
their inflation?
God. I mean, probably 1,000% at least.
282,972% inflation.
Yeah. I actually watched a video. There's this guy that travels the world. His name's, I think it's Drew Binsky or Bimsky or something. He's like a redheaded skinny dude, but he's gone to like every single country. And he actually toured Venezuela, and literally they had to like reinvent their currency over there some. And then also like to pay for like a McDonald's meal, you're basically giving them what would be equivalent of like bands of money. Like they paid for McDonald's, and it was like literally a handful of bands of money just for a meal, because
That's crazy.
Because you literally need like $1,000.
Well, I listened to a podcast about Venezuela, and I think this was 2018 or 2019.
Yeah.
They did how much the average family got in income a month as compared to how much it would cost for the lowest priced food you could possibly find in Venezuela for a month.
Yeah.
And they made less than it was to actually buy the food that would sustain a family calorically for the month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. If you ever start feeling bad about yourselves, folks, I feel that way too, because look, inflation has kind of hurt me because I'm kind of living a little bit paycheck to paycheck right now. We're going to be honest. But at any rate, I'm still able to go with Cody on a Thursday night and get Buffalo Wild Wings. Over there, it's so much different. I mean, even if you're poor here, you're still in better shape than almost anywhere else in the world.
Aaron, I think that's great.
Yeah.
And I don't have anything else to say about all that.
Okay.
I'm on Forrest Gump.
That's all I got to say about that.
All right, we appreciate you guys listening to us, and I hope you took something away from it. And let us know what you think in the comments. I know nobody will, but I would appreciate a comment.
You can send mail to our P.O. box as well.
Well, do you have a good sign off? Troy has some kind of sign off. I don't know what it is.
Don't.
It's hashtag don't.
Oh, hashtag don't.
Good
Sorry.
luck.